My friends, there's an old Latin expression, an old maxim, which goes something like this: Anima Christiana naturaliter Mariana. And what it means is that the Christian soul is naturally Marian. Welcome to MCast. This is Dr. Mark Miravalle, Professor of Theology and Mariology at the Franciscan University of Steubenville, and we're talking about some of the wonders of Mary. And the reason I open with that quote is to keep in mind that it is a natural process for a soul in love with Christ to naturally love His mother. Think about the people that you love. Isn't your first disposition towards their parents, towards their brothers and sisters, towards their friends, something positive? Of course it is, because you love them. And so if you love Jesus, you're naturally going to love His mother. And I'll tell you what else. You're also naturally going to be accepting of the wonders of His mother, of the revelation from Jesus about Mary. And part of that revelation is her perfect virginity, her perpetual virginity. And as we're going to talk about in today's program, the miraculous way in which Mary gives birth to Jesus, because when God becomes man, you and I have to expect exceptions. And that's what takes place. Let's rehash a little bit and summarize what we've said about the virginity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The papal dogma of Mary's perpetual virginity has three dimensions: her virginity before the birth of Jesus, her virginity during the birth of Jesus, and her virginity after the birth of Jesus. In our last segment, we talked about Mary's virginity before the birth of Jesus, which is so very clearly revealed in sacred Scripture. In today's program, in this session, I want to talk about her virginity during the birth of Jesus. And let's just start with the beautiful way the fathers of the Church described the way in which Jesus was born, a manner which entirely safeguarded the virginity of Mary. Because the dogmatic statements from Pope Martin I tells us that Mary was virginal before, during, and after the birth of Jesus. What could he mean when he specified that Mary was virginal during the birth of Jesus? Well, let's establish what it can't mean. It can't possibly mean that the Church is concerned that no one think that Mary would be participating in some inordinate relations during the birth of Jesus. This would be grossly inappropriate. That means the only sensible way of understanding this definition is that the Pope and the Church is protecting that Mary's physical virginity remained intact while she gave birth to Jesus. And the fathers of the Church use this beautiful image. As light passes through glass without harming glass, so too Jesus passed through Mary in a miraculous fashion, without any harm to her physical virginity. This is why it's called virginitas intactu, that Mary's physical virginity remained intact in what Pope Pius XII called, in a papal encyclical, the, quote, miraculous birth of Jesus Christ. Now, why would God ordain that Jesus would be brought into the world in a miraculous fashion? Well, let's start with the simple reasons. It's kind of a miraculous thing to begin with, right? God is becoming man. The Word is taking on flesh. It's a cavalcade of miraculous. It's a whole Janus of the supernatural. Why would we be concerned or disposed to any doubt if yet a further miraculous dimension was regarding the precise way in which Jesus enters the world? Mary's virginity had to be protected. Mary was to be the perfect virgin. Mary was to be virginal before, during, and after the birth of Jesus, so that the virgins in the Church to come, in the times to come, in the centuries, those who vowed their virginity, they would have in Mary a perfect model. And remember what the Second Vatican Council tells us, that Mary is a perfect model of the Church as both virgin and mother. So Mary's physical virginity was to be protected precisely because it's perfect virginity. It's the optimum. It's the model of Christian virginity for all times to come. Now, scripturally, we can see implicitly a reference to Mary's giving a miraculous birth to Jesus in the prophecy of Isaiah, Isaiah 7:14. Because in the great prophecy it says, "Behold, a virgin will conceive and bear a son." So, the great prophecy refers to a virginal conceiving, which is virginity before, which we've already discussed, but also a virginal bearing. And indeed, the fathers of the church understood that not only did Mary have a vow of virginity, as we'll talk about in the third dimension of her virginity, her perpetual virginity, but also that it would be a perfect virginity so that the church would have that model. Now, let's use John Paul II's theology of the body to add even more clarity and reasonability to why Mary gave miraculous birth to Jesus Christ. Why Jesus Christ left the womb of Mary in a miraculous fashion without any violation to Mary's physical virginity. John Paul II, in his masterful theology of the body, tells us this, that the body expresses the person, that the outside is an expression of the inside. Well, see this in terms of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Mary's perfect virginity of heart should also be manifested, revealed in her body. And some might be entertaining the objection, well, what about in these extreme cases, for example, when a woman's virginity is taken from her violently in the horrific act of things like rape? Well, yes, in cases like that, they still keep their virginal integrity of heart because they have not given their body to anyone else. They've kept their body for the Lord, as was their intention. But in this case, in the case of Mary, her bodily virginity is an appropriate manifestation of her perfect virginity of the heart. So that's why we have the fathers of the church defending Mary's miraculous birth in the process of giving birth to Jesus. St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas jointly say that Mary gave a miraculous birth to Jesus, that Jesus passed through the birth canal of Mary in a miraculous way without any physical violation, just as Jesus was later to pass through the tomb without any disturbing of the great stone of the tomb. Other writers have said just as he enters the cenacle room without opening the door, so too does Jesus pass miraculously through the first door, the womb of Our Lady. What we know with clarity is that the Church, Lumen Gentium 57, the Catechism, following the teaching of Lumen Gentium, puts it this way. It's a beautiful way that the birth of Jesus did not violate Mary's virginity, but rather sanctified it. It's a beautiful way of expressing the fact that, yes, Mary was to be the perfect virgin, including her physical virginity remaining intact. So, if you have one image to keep in mind in capturing this, keep the image of the fathers of the church. Light passing through glass without doing any violation to the glass. My friends, this is part of the wonders of the Blessed Virgin Mary. This is why she deserves every honor we should give to her that pleases Jesus in terms of acknowledging the special nature of the Mother of God, the Theotokos, and the spiritual mother of all people. Perpetual virgin and perfect model for each one of us. This is Dr. Mark Miravalle at MCast. Thanks and God bless.